Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. We have made it past the halfway point in this class, so I hope you guys are doing okay and still with me. All right, we're gonna look at the overview and resources for this week. This week is gonna continue on with our look at international trade and how it kind of affects us at the local level. And specifically this week, we're gonna look at the cultural cooperation among nations and looking at international agreements and organizations. So to start with, for reading, we've got a little bit more of our Boundless Economics textbook. That's looking at barriers to trade. So you're going to look at different things like tariffs. Again, you focus on the key takeaways, the key points and the key terms. We've got tariffs, there's quotas, and then you've got the other barriers to trade. Next one is just arguments for and against the protectionist policy. So you're going to look at different arguments. There's national security, infant industries, unfair competition, the jobs arguments, and then at the very bottom we get a summary of international trade agreements in general. And this summary also goes into 3 specific types of agreements or organizations. And I want you to know, though, that this NAFTA agreement is no longer in effect. It has been replaced, and I will talk about that more with some of your other resources. I also want you to read about what cultural diffusion is, and that's basically just the spread of cultural beliefs and social activities from one group to another. And then why is it important in this class? Well, economics is kind of the reason behind it. So make sure you look down and for sure read these last 2 big sections. The next part, this one I actually should probably put under the resources area, but it'll work up here. This is more for you looking at, if you can't find a specific agreement that affects your industry, because you might be fairly local, maybe you can find some of the agreements that may affect your industry or your specific organization in general, kind of like a trickle-down effect. So the United States Environmental Protection Agency looking at ozone layer protection. Is this a mission that you and your organization could pick up? Is this something you already do? How is ozone layer protection affecting you? So if you decide that that might be one way to look at how it's going to affect your industry or your company specifically, this is a great website to look at. Something else along with the ozone layer, there's climate change. And so here's the Kyoto Protocol. I think that's how you say it. If not, I apologize. Here's what kind of brought this about. And this is what was committed to back in the 90s. And then we have kind of the intermittence. Here's the next one. This is what happened next, where they said, all right, in 2015, we're going to meet in Paris. So this is the Paris Climate Change Conference. And then we get the Paris Climate Agreement, or the Paris Agreement, and what that is specifically. And then more recently, we have the US leaves the Paris Agreement. So here's kind of what the State Department put out, and this was a year? I thought this was current, but it says that it came out a year ago. So, yes, a year ago they began the process. So that's what the State Department says there. And then here are 2 articles from the Associated Press, pretty short, not too long articles about the US formally exiting the Paris Pact, and then one from Forbes as well. And the reason I did one from the Associated Press and one from Forbes is obviously we live in a fairly politically split world. And so the Associated Press is a fairly central news source. However, it does lean a little bit left, and Forbes leans a little bit right. So here you get the same article. They both came out on the same day, I believe. Let me just make sure of that. But I think they both came out on November 4th. Yep, November 4th and November 4th. So they both came out on the same day, covering the same topic. Kind of look through those and see if you get anything that's really different. But at least this way you can see that you're the same type of news is being broadcast from both sides. And I just didn't want you to think I was trying to push you one way or the other politically. For your resources, you've got this Library of Congress website. And this just looks at all the international organizations. You've got the APEC, which was mentioned in the reading. You've got NATO. The OECD is something that I look at a lot, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And each one of these links just takes you to that page. You've got the European Union, international organizations, and then the United Nations specific ones. So those are good resources for you. We've got the State Department Treaties in Force. This is strictly a resource. Please don't try to read the whole thing. If you're wondering about a list of our treaties and international agreements with other countries, you can look up specific countries in this. So if you're wondering, what do we have with Fiji? You just Control F or however you do it on a PC, that's what I was trying to think. And then it takes you to them and you can see what type of international treaties we have with them, looking at cultural exchange, property and cooperation, at the defense, and when they were actually signed and then when they were enforced. So you can see we have an agreement concerning training related to defense, and that was signed in 1985 and it went into effect in 1986. So if you're looking at specific, or if you ever care about looking at for specific countries, this is a great resource for you. Some more free trade agreements. This is from the Office of the United States Trade Representative. So these are, again, looking at them specifically. And this United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, the USMCA, this is what actually replaced NAFTA. And it entered into force on July 1st, 2020. So this is a pretty new, or fairly new agreement. And I don't know if everybody understands truly what's in it. So this would be a good one if you want to look into it and see, does it affect your industry at all? And then I provided this one just because I like this, with the fact that I gave you those two articles to see how they report things differently. This isn't it's not perfect, but it does give you some pretty good least biased media and fact checking to look at and see if you think they're biased or not. I have it set to send you to the least biased. Doesn't mean they're not biased, but they're the least biased. And then they list some left center and some far left. And then you can do the same with right center and right. There's a few other media bias places or media bias websites that you can check. These ones are just ones that I use a lot just because it's one way I help myself make sure that I'm not looking at, or if I am looking at something that's really biased, I can know to take it with a grain of salt. I think, let me see if I can find the other one real fast while this comes back here. The other one I look at a lot is, no, that's not right. That's not where I am. So anyway, I'll try to find the other one, but this is a good one just to look at it and see where it is. There's also a graphic I'll post next to this. So then this is a video for you to watch looking at importers and exporters with the free trade agreements. Start at 6:30 because this is a webinar that took place earlier in 2020 by a group that put on a bunch of international trade webinars throughout the pandemic. So what you're going to want to look at, and I'm going to try to bring this in. Give me 1 second. There we go. This is the trade facilitators. So they actually brought in all of these webinars. I think there's 10 or 11 total. Looks like 11 total. This one deals specifically with the U.S. free trade agreements for importers and exporters. That's the one that I put on our resources list. If you want to know more about the USMCA, you could look at this one and look at how it's sourcing it. It talks a lot more about it. So these are just some good resources for you, and especially because this first one that I have listed here explains, if it will load.
You can write it.
It explains different free trade agreements and trade agreements. So like a normal trade relations, preference programs, and free trade agreement. So it actually explains the differences between all of those. You don't necessarily have to watch the whole thing, but it would be a good thing for you if you need more of a background in free trade agreements. And then you've got your discussion posts, and your applied assignment for this week is to build a PowerPoint describing an international agreement or organization. And so let's look at your first discussion post. So the first one, and it is due Friday this week because of Thanksgiving, so you do not have to have this done by Thanksgiving or do it on Thanksgiving. I'm giving you an extra day. That means I need to fix this. I apologize. That should say Saturday at midnight, but they are still due on Sunday. So what I want you to do is tell us what international agreement or organization are you choosing for your applied assignment, and how does this impact your industry or your company or the industry and company you want to be in someday if you're not there right now. So what I want you to do is use this as an exercise to help you start thinking about your assignment. Help your classmates develop their thinking as you develop yours. I mean, ask difficult questions. If they say, this is what I'm thinking, play devil's advocate and try to go the opposite way. Well, what about this? Since I'm asking you to give both sides here and help each other think critically, basically how it impacts your industry is also a part of your applied assignment. So you can work through it here, and you can use your classmates to help you collaboratively. That also means, though, if you post late, you're not going to get as much help from your classmates. And I also want to encourage you all as classmates to not just continually post on the first person. If you see somebody's got a lot of people that have posted on theirs and helped them, scroll down to the bottom and find somebody that posted a little bit later. Give them some help too. Don't just help the same people week after week. So your next one, I wanted to do something a little bit more fun this week because it is Thanksgiving week. Try not to stress you out a little bit more and give you as much work, but this one is just to get to know everybody and how they're doing a little bit more. So I want to know what word best describes the 2020 edition of you right now. And my word right now is crispy, and that I just found out from Dr. Goldhammer on Friday, I believe. And it's the feeling of emotional exhaustion mixed with the simmering heat of irritation and continual life stressors. I will also post a reply with a little bit more detail, just kind of explaining what I want to explain to everybody, because I know 2020 hasn't necessarily been the best year for everybody. So tell us how you're doing, and hopefully this will help you guys all become closer as an MBA cohort and help get to know each other a little bit more. Again, this is not serious. Just have some fun with it. And then your applied assignment, you're going to build me a PowerPoint describing an international agreement or organization. I want to see pros and cons of the agreement or the organization. So what are some good things? What are some bad things? Much like we talked about the WTO, the World Trade Organization, not that long ago, we saw that there were pros and cons. Is the outcome of it balanced or biased? So if you choose a specific agreement, if it's biased, who benefited and who bared the cost? How does the bias impact the different cultures? And then explain how the international agreement would impact your industry. And that's what you're going to work through with discussion 1. You don't actually need to record the presentation, but please use the speaker notes to explain your slides. And if you have any questions on this, please let me know. I hope this is a little bit clearer than last week's. And that is it for week 5. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will do my best to answer them. I'll be working all week except for Thursday, so I'm around if you need me. Have a great day.